Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jay Woodson. I run the maintenance department here at Real Property Management Richmond Metro. In lieu of all of the fires up in the northeast there in New York City, we wanted to do a quick educational Zoom here to just let our owners and residents get a little update on things that they can be paying attention to make sure they're all safe. I've got Liz Guise here with us today. She is with the Henrico County Fire Department, and she's going to kind of walk you through the slideshow of some things that we need to be paying attention to. So if you guys have any questions, you can send them through the chat and we'll try to get to them before we finish up today. So welcome, Liz. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Great.
I'll jump right in.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So as I was just introduced, I'm the community services firefighter. So I work for Henrico Fire Department. I was at a fire station for over 7 years, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today about general fire safety, building safety, and then majority of our fires and kind of how to do some fire prevention. So I'll just go ahead and get right to it. When we start talking about this, we start with the fire science, fire triangle, and then we move into fire prevention, and then what's really applicable to residents and renters and building owners are fire prevention, smoke alarms, home escape plans, and that kind of thing. To start off, when we talk about fires, everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to die in a fire or this or that, but really the biggest concern is smoke. So smoke kills more often than fire, smoke inhalation. And when we talk about fire, it's the rapid oxidation of a material, so fuel that has to be heated, and there also has to be oxygen. So just like humans, fire needs oxygen to breathe. All this is important when we talk about fire prevention and putting out small fires, because for there to be a fire, there has to be at least these three things present. One being obviously fuel, one being heat, and then the other being oxygen. Like I just said, oxygen, heat, and fuel together, these create a chemical chain reaction. So when we talk about putting out fires, you take any one of these components away and the fire will stop. So we talk about cooking safety because majority of the fires we actually run, the number one cause is cooking. So this is kind of just some info, some numbers, but really Thanksgiving is the leading day of cooking fires. Majority of them are due to unintended cooking. So someone gets home, throws something in the oven, sits on the couch, dozes off, wake up to a fire. Same thing with heating oil or something like that in a pan, that as well. So really we talk about cooking safety. So when we talk about cooking fires, like I just said, it's the leading cause of home fires. 1 in 8 households will have a cooking fire each year. And the leading cause is unattended cooking. When we talk about fire prevention with cooking fires, we say these are kind of some of our tips is watch what you're heating, stay alert, keep things that can catch fire away from the heat. So a lot of times, we have pot holders and little towels and that kind of thing near the stove. Even though we can use those pot holders or oven mitts to get things that are hot out of the oven, they actually are flammable and they will catch on fire. I've run numerous fires that, you set the kitchen mitt or oven mitt on top of the stove, lights on fire, and that causes a fire, obviously. The other things is keeping kids away from your cooking area. We talk about a 3 feet buffer zone. And that kind of also goes for space heaters. So we always say anything that's hot, so space heaters, fireplaces, and ovens and stoves, we want to keep a 3 feet buffer. But we call this like the no kid zone or pet zone or even people zone. We want to help prevent scalds and burns, install your cooking appliances safely, and then always have working smoke alarms. I'll get into that further in the presentation, but smoke alarms are really the biggest thing that can save lives in terms of fire safety. We're talking about cooking fires. Stay in the kitchen, turn off the stove if you leave the kitchen, even for a short time. And the other thing is don't put water on a grease fire. We all have seen like the little rainbows at gas stations on the ground where maybe gasoline or diesel was spilled on the ground and then the rain happened. It's because oil and water don't mix. That goes the same for grease or cooking oils. I've run numerous fires because, you know, a little pan of oil has caught on fire and we go to throw water on it and now it's dispersed and spread all over the cabinets and lit everything else on fire. So if there is a grease fire, this is where we talk about the fire triangle. You can put it out easily without water. Three other ways. One is just turning off the heat. So you're turning off the heat source. It will eventually go out. You can slide a lid over it, which once again, it takes away the oxygen, or you can move the pan off the heat. I don't recommend that. That oil spills, it will burn you. I'm just gonna show you really quick 2 little short videos. First off, how well it works to just literally put a lid over a grease fire. So there you can see, you literally just slide a lid over and it will go right out. The other one that is a little bit more drastic here. So this is basically if you had a little bit of oil in a pan. And then what happens if you put, and this is just an 8-ounce cup of water. So okay, so I'll show you that last part just one more time. But like I said, this is just a small little bit of water. And that's what it can do. So the moral of that story is do not put water on a grease fire. Oh boy. All right. So anyways, when we talk about cooking fires, I think we've already talked about that. Keep stovetop burners and oven clean, wear tight fitting rolled up short sleeves. And then if your clothes ever do catch on fire, you know, we go back to the motto of the stop, drop, and roll. And then if you have a burn, you're going to use cool water for 3 to 5 minutes, but making sure you're seeking medical attention. And then these are just kind of some slogans that they talk about. It's when in doubt, get out. So the biggest thing with fires I can talk about is that, you know, the fire department and firefighters, we have the appropriate gear, we have oxygen, we can breathe. So the biggest thing is, you know, I'm sitting here showing you ways to put out small fires, but if you're even in question or in doubt, just get out. All right, get outside, call 911 from outside. The biggest thing when we talk about this, and especially when we saw those fires in New York, when you leave, you have to close the door behind you. Buildings are built with fire protection, building codes, and all of that in place. So doors actually prevent fire spread. So I'll show you a video in a minute of a house where side to side rooms, one door was shut, one door was open, and you can see the difference it makes. So honestly, in terms of the biggest thing I can always say is that closing doors. So when you sleep at night, closing doors, you can last about, it's something astronomical, like 2 to 3 hours with like fully involved fire outside just a bedroom door, and that room will still be able to be livable. So shutting doors is massive, and that was really the biggest problem with the fire in New York recently is that when these people left the apartments, they left the doors open. Once again, I told you at the very beginning that fire needs oxygen to breathe. It will create its own flow paths, and it will move towards the area of the most rich, good oxygen and the most fuel that it can burn. I know that sounds crazy, like it's a live thing, but that is how it works. It will move towards oxygen. I think I've already covered all of this, that if we're not trying to fight fire, get outside, call 911 from outside, do not go back inside. Smoke inhalation is the #1 killer. It takes, I think it's like 4 or 5 firefighters to rescue one victim. So the more we go back inside, we are now having to recover more victims. So as much as you might want to go back in for an animal or something like that, being outside and meeting the fire department outside and giving information, like my cat's still in there, or my child is in that bedroom sleeping, that gives us information on exactly where to go and not waste our time searching. So we've already talked about grease fires, that you can put the lid over them, turn the burner off, or not moving the pan. So when you put the lid on, you're taking away the oxygen. When you turn off the burner, you're taking away the heat. Let's see. So when we talk about the same thing with ovens or microwaves. I've run a lot of fires where people are going to heat up their pizza in their pizza box from the day before. Just, put it at about 200, or they want to keep it warm until the other parent gets home or something like that. Cardboard boxes, pizza boxes do catch fire. That is flammable. If that ever does happen, we don't open the oven door. We keep the oven shut. Once again, like I said, it'll run out of oxygen and it will put itself out, but just keep the oven door shut, turn the oven off, and it will burn itself out. The same thing with a microwave, right? If we have burnt popcorn or anything like that, we keep that microwave door shut and turn off the microwave. So those are the biggest things, right? So we always want to be taking away one side of that fire triangle. I already talked about this kid-free zone. It's 3 feet around the stove, areas where there's hot food or drink. So just watch out for kids, animals, all of that. The second leading cause to house and any type of fires are smoking fires. So if you smoke, make sure you're smoking outside. Keep cigarettes and lighters and matches away and out of the reach of children. I know these are messages we've always heard, but it's pretty devastating when you run a call where a kid has pulled a pot all over themselves and burned themselves with the liquid, or played with matches or lighters and lit themselves on fire. These are just reminders. Use deep, sturdy ashtrays. I've also run a lot of fires where people are smoking in their bed. They fall asleep and it lights their bed on fire and it's killed them. So just little things like that, like, we just kind of get complacent at times, but these things still do happen. And then the last thing, I've run a lot of fires where people discard the cigarettes and vegetation, so mulch beds, especially when it's hot out and dry, and has lit the side of buildings on fire. You really don't want to be responsible for something like that. So just being responsible and making sure that you're putting cigarette butts and all that, making sure they're out completely. Same thing with brush fires. I run them along the interstate all the time, that people are throwing the cigarette butts out their window. So with cooking, like I said, I've already covered all of this. And then obviously never smoke if you're on medical oxygen is used in the home. Go outside. So we've already talked about this, all these different things. Okay, so now we talk about smoke alarms. So it's important that everyone has smoke alarms, working smoke alarms. If you're a renter, your landlord is responsible for making sure that you have working smoke alarms. Now, they're not responsible for checking, but making sure that if you notify them that it's chirping or out of date or anything like that, that they need to come and take care of that. Smoke alarms have a 10-year lifespan, so they need to be replaced every 10 years. If they're chirping, they need new batteries, especially if they're interconnected. They're all going to chirp, so you're not going to know which one is the one that needs the new battery, so you need to replace them all. The thing about smoke alarms here is that they give you an early warning so you can get outside quickly. This is the maximum protection, they say, to have smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside every sleeping area, on every level. We, as the fire department, say in terms of minimum protection, 1 smoke alarm per floor of your occupancy, at the very least. And there's also special types of alarms if anyone is hard of hearing or deaf, that can give, that are bed shakers, so they shake your bed. And then there's also ones that are strobe lights. So if you ever have anything like that, you can contact the fire department and we can get you in contact with the Red Cross, who does a lot of those installations. Like I said, 1 per floor. Oh yeah, in terms of installing, you know, a lot of, like I said, fires occur in the kitchen, but you also don't want it going off every time you're cooking. All of us burn bacon on a regular basis, and that's super annoying, which then a lot of times causes people to just take the fire alarm, smoke alarm down in general, and then they don't have it. So make sure it's out of the kitchen, away from the kitchen, but in a place that if there is an actual fire and smoke is filling the whole house, that it will go off. Once again, the same thing we say again is get outside. First thing you can do is get yourself outside and then call 911. And when we talk about this, you want to have a meeting place so that you know you have accountability if everyone is out. Do not go back inside. Like I said, you will then become another victim, which is, you know, if you're outside, you're able to tell the fire department how many people are in there. You know, if your neighbor is out of town for the weekend or something like that, like we need historians, we need people to talk to. It is our job to go in and put that fire out and to rescue people. So don't try to be that hero. Get outside, call 911 and stay outside. Like I said, oh yeah, testing smoke alarms, there's a test button on it. You can test that and see if it's working. The chirping means it needs new batteries, or it means that it's out of date and it's now malfunctioning. So that's what the chirping means. And then, like I said, they need to be replaced every 10 years. So here I talked about compartmentalizing and closing doors when you're sleeping. So we'll watch the video real quick. I won't make you wait as long as that other one. But here, so the idea with this is it's the Underwriters Laboratory, and they do research on like fire spread and all of that. So here you can see, I'll show you, it's a building that they've built, and it's side-by-side bedrooms, and they put a fire and then they kind of watch it spread, and then you see what happens with the one bedroom with the door shut and the other bedroom that had the door open. So we'll kind of start here, skip up. Yeah, so you'll be able to see.
What I want you to do is I want to take you inside here, and I want you to see how this looks like your home. And then once we get you outside, we're going to go ahead and recreate what would happen if there was a fire in this structure right here.
So as you can see, it's just
pretty normal. Yeah, got some furnishings. You'll notice the difference down here as we walk down. This bedroom door will be closed, and the one at the end of the hall will be open. And what I want you to do is pay attention to comparison to 2 of those and think about you and your family trying to survive this fire. All right, we just hit the button. We have ignition.
Oh boy, here she goes. Oh man, that is scary. It's scary, yeah. But we have smoke now.
What a lot of people don't realize is that the furnishings that are in our homes today are made of synthetic materials. So they burn so much faster than your old natural cotton-filled furnishings used to be. The statistics that we've seen through our research is in about 40 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to get out of your house after the smoke alarm sounded. Now you have less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, see, this is what this is the things that we were doing. Whoa.
So there the fire is finding clean oxygen, so that's why it broke the window.
All right, go ahead, knock it down.
So that's what we see when we go into fires.
Closed door on the left, open door on the right. And you can see the dramatic difference between the two with the simple closed door.
Okay, so obviously, like, let's see, I'm worried it's going to go. Okay, so that's why it's so important to sleep with your door closed, and to say when there is any sort of fire or anything like that, that you shut the door behind you. That was, like I said, the biggest problem with the fire in New York, where all those people were killed. The apartment that had the fire, they left their door open. With that, it allowed the fire to have all that fuel in their apartment and then go down the hallway and spread, trapping tons of people. Here's kind of a close-up of exactly what those bedroom doors look like. Here you can see a little bit in the cracks, but if you were sleeping and or trapped and you had that door shut, you open your window and call for help, we are gonna throw a ladder and get you out. If you try to open that door, dead immediately due to smoke inhalation. So if I can get anything from this presentation, it would be to please shut doors behind you. If you can, sleep with your door shut, and make sure you're having working smoke alarms. It'll wake you up, and you'll be able to know if you're going to be able to escape out yourself, or you know, if you're going to need to wait, open a window, make sure all the doors are shut, and call for help. With that, we kind of talk about home escape plans. I won't go into too much depth other than making sure that you know you have two ways out. I know in my home, I know in a lot of buildings, windows and things are painted shut. The time to find out that a window is painted shut is not an emergency. So just knowing which windows are working properly, having a plan as to what you're going to do so that when there is the emergency, you're not trying to figure that out then. The other thing is making sure you have a meeting place. That's super important. When I say that, it needs to be in the front of the building. You're able to take accountability to see who's there and not there. I've run a fire where the kid decided to go hide in the tree house in the backyard. We were searching that house a really long time for that kid. Really scary, very emotional for the parents. But so it's really, really, really important that everyone knows to meet in the front yard or at the, you know, my neighbor's tree, or, you know, if you're in a business or an apartment building, you just need to have a good meeting place and accountability so that you guys can let the fire department know upon arrival where people are, who's missing, or if everyone's out. That totally changes our strategy. And because number one for us is life safety and then property preservation, but we're not going to risk our lives for property, but we will risk our lives for another human life. So just knowing that. So basically this is the idea of home escape plans. Like I said, having two ways out of every room in case your doorway is trapped, like just in that video, knowing that you can open a window or break a window to call for help. We do not recommend jumping unless a fire is chasing you out the window, which fire should never be chasing you if you've shut a door behind you. So shut doors, open windows, call for help. Do not jump out of windows unless you have to. I'll briefly talk about fire extinguishers because I'm sure some of you guys will maybe have to use a fire extinguisher. You might have a fire extinguisher in your home. Mostly we use fire extinguishers on Class A or Class B fires, which are ordinary combustibles, such as wood, paper, rubber, plastic, or Class B, which are oil and grease. What we talk and teach about is the PASS method, and that's just an acronym for pulling the pin, aiming, squeezing, or sweeping and squeezing. It's very simple. Literally just have to pull that pin. As soon as you do that, if you squeeze that, all that dry chem, the white powder is coming out. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is EMS. So that's kind of the other stuff that firefighters do, which actually is majority of what we do, is emergency medical services. With that, I'll just say from the amount of calls I've run, this is just kind of an FYI. We highly recommend having something, we call it the file of life, but it can be anything, an envelope that's labeled file of life with information on like a refrigerator, or we do vial of life. So an empty pill bottle with information, and what's on there is like your emergency contact, who to contact, and you know, say like, so maybe someone's having a stroke, or maybe a parent hits their head and passes out. and is unable to communicate to the emergency responders, we then know who to contact or what hospital you might need to go to or what your medical history is. Or, I mean, you know, maybe someone has a DNR, so they don't want to be resuscitated. This kind of stuff gives us that information so that we can fulfill the patient's wishes. So I highly, highly recommend having some sort of information on your refrigerator for first responders. That's where we always look. We look for an envelope or something like that that's labeled. Just put that there. And then I talk about an AED. Those are in a lot of buildings and they look like this scary thing in this metal box, but it's in case anyone is having a heart attack or a cardiac arrest. You literally open it and it prompts you with all the instructions on what to do. You know, so you just turn it on. So if someone has no pulse, it tells you exactly what to do, where to put the different pads, when to start compressions, all that kind of stuff. So you can really do a lot of work and a lot of good by utilizing an AED. So I always bring that up. So it's not something that you just walk past in a hallway and you're like, what is that? That's what that is. There's a lot of videos out there. I don't want to waste your time on that. I was really asked to help with fire prevention, but that's what that is, the AED. They're very simple. It does not need to be intimidating, and you can really save someone with those. So that's pretty much it for my presentation. I'm not sure if we have any questions or there's anything else you wanted to go over, but I'll give you that time now.
Thank you so much. I think everyone got a lot out of that. I know I did. I didn't realize, I knew water and oil, they don't mix, but I didn't realize it would explode like that. So yeah, that's nice to know. So I'll stay out of the kitchen then. But I did have one question. I know you briefly touched on the space heaters. I know we occasionally have to utilize them in case, say for instance, a vendor can't get out quick enough and they have to have a space heater, or they're using a space heater to supplement some heat in an older house in one specific room. What is there any other than just keeping that 3 foot that buffer zone around these space heaters? Is there anything else, any additional things that they should pay attention to? How long can they stay on? Should they not stay on overnight when they're sleeping? Is there anything that you got when it comes to that, or?
I would have to do a little bit more research on like different tips for that, but I would honestly also say like what makes sense to you. The biggest thing, like I said, we teach is the 3 feet buffer zone, just because it is really hot. A lot of the newer ones I feel like will shut off when they get to a certain temperature. I would definitely be aware of circuit overload. So electrical outlets, don't use multiple like extension cords for stuff like that. Just in terms of, the amount of electricity that it's pulling for the amount of time, you'll have 2 problems there. So I would really just make sure that there's nothing around it at all that could catch fire. It's probably not a good idea to keep it on overnight. That just is what intuitively comes to mind. But I feel like there would be a lot of safeties in place for space heaters.
Gotcha. We do have one quick question here from Bob Mahoney. He's asking, are there fire department brochures, materials that we can give to some of our building residents? I don't know if you guys have any type of printouts or anything like that, or maybe a link that we can share with them.
Yeah, I can definitely share links. I can definitely pull up some flyers and information stuff we have. If you guys wanted to print, I can definitely overload you guys with fire prevention or information in that regards, and you guys can pick and choose if that would be helpful. So absolutely.
Be great. Awesome. This is great. Very informative. Unless there's any other questions, I think we've covered everything. Ralph, do you have any questions here for Liz? Good. Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you got something out of this. I know I did. So again, appreciate your time, Liz, to go through this with us.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.